Greetings of the day to all my dear students. I hope that you all are in good health. Today's thought for the day is you are off to great places. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting, so get on your way. This is Shreya Jadhav welcoming you all to my e-learning channel. And today we are going to learn English grade 11 chapter 4 Landscape of Soul, written by Nathalie Troveroy. So now let us have a quick look for introduction for the answer. Dear students, always remember that whenever you are appearing for any test or exams, start your answer with introduction. This creates a really good impact. So here it is. Prose name, Landscape of the Soul. Author's name, Nathalie Troveroy. Genre, short story. Summary. In the excerpt from Landscape of Soul, Ethics and Spirituality in Chinese painting and art is focused on bringing about the essence of inner life and the spirit. So moving ahead, let us go through the summary of the unit. In the excerpt from Landscape of the Soul, Ethics and Spirituality in Chinese Painting, Nathalie Troveroy, the writer, tells us that Chinese art is focused on bringing about the essence of inner life and the spirit. A classical Chinese artwork is not meant to reproduce an actual view of a landscape. A viewer can often travel through the paintings and reach a dimension beyond time. A Chinese painter wants one to enter his mind. The landscape in Chinese art is an inner one, a spiritual and conceptual space. A Chinese painting is not a real one, and a Chinese painter does not choose a single viewpoint. His is a multi-dimensional vision. A Chinese painter Wu Dozi was commissioned to paint a landscape for his palace wall by the Tang Emperor Zhenzong. The painter had hidden his work behind a screen so that only the emperor could see it. He told the emperor that a spirit dwelt in the cave at the foot of the painted mountain. The painter clapped his hands. The cave door opened, and the painter entered the door. But before the astonished emperor could move or utter a word, the painter and his paintings both vanished forever. In another example, a painter wouldn't draw the eye of the dragon he had painted, as he feared it would fly out of the painting once he completed it. In contrast to Chinese painting, European art is a real one. It aims to create perfect resemblance with the original object. The painter aims to reproduce an actual view for the viewer. A European painter wants his viewers to view the painting with the same perspective that of his own. Another example of the Western type of painting was given, which dated back to the 15th century, Antwerp, where a blacksmith fell in love with a painter's daughter and convinced her father for their alliance by showing his realistic painting skills. He painted a fly with such a delicate realism that the blacksmith tried to sweat the fly away, and he was deceived. The writer compared the two distinct painting styles by the results both expected to achieve out of the work. A perfect illusionistic likeness in Europe and the essence of inner life and spirit in Asia was the main aim of two distinctive styles of painting. The concept of sensui means landscape. The literal meaning is mountain water. These two elements together depict a Taoist view of the universe. The mountain represents yang. The element is active and masculine. It reaches vertically towards heaven. It remains stable, warm, and dry in the sun. The water is yin. This element is horizontal and resting on earth, cool, moist, and fluid. The interaction of the receptive feminine aspect of the universe, yin, and masculine aspect, yang, is the fundamental notion of Taoism. There is also a third element, the middle void, where interaction of yang and yin takes place. Without this element, nothing can happen. It represents the white, unpainted space in a Chinese landscape. The concept of outsider art or art burst was suggested by French artist Jean Dubuffet. In 1940s, outsider art is the artwork usually done by the untrained or naive artists. Outsider art or art burst is the genre of work described as the art of those who have no right to be artists, as they have not received any formal training, yet they show talent and have artistic insight. The artworks are a stimulating contrast to a lot of mainstream's artworks. The notion of art birth or raw art was of works that were in raw state. With regards to cultural and artistic aspects, the writer refers to an 80-year-old creator-director, Mr. Nek Chand. This artist sculpted a paradise out of stones and recycled materials. He created the famous rock garden in Chandigarh. Being an outsider artist, he is referred to as an untutored genius. Anything and everything, from tin to a sink to a broken down car, was used by Nek Chand to create the rock garden. His rock garden sculpture, Women by the Waterfall, is a masterpiece and grabbed the attention of thousands. The UK based magazine Raw Vision has featured Nek Chand's and his rock garden sculpture, Women by the Waterfall, on its anniversary issue cover page. So, dear students, this is all about the summary of the unit. Now, moving ahead, let us have the detailed reading and explanation of the chapter. Now, dear students, as you all know, this is part 2 of the video lecture. Now, in the previous lecture, in the previous video, we all have gone and have learnt about the Chinese classical landscapes, and we have also learnt about the European painter. What are their particular means of achieving these things? How they really do it. Now, the European painters wants the person to have a look from their own perspective. They do not want to have their individual mindset while looking into the painting. On the other hand, Chinese painters does not have a single viewpoint. They think that there should be multi-dimensional vision for viewing it. The Chinese painters' landscapes are not real one. They are imaginative. So they want their viewers to have their own mindset to look into that particular painting and to have a good way of viewing it. So these sort of dimension changes from time to time. Now, moving ahead, this concept is expressed as sensui, literally mountain water, which used together represents the word landscape. More than two elements of an image that represents two complementary poles, reflecting the Taoist's view of the universe. The mountain is yang, reaching vertically towards heaven, stable, warm, and dry in the sun, while the water in yin, horizontal and resting on the earth, fluid, moist, and cool. The interactions of yin, the receptive, feminine aspect of universal energy, and its counterpart yang, active and masculine, is of course a fundamental notion of Taoism. What is often overlooked is an essential third element, the middle void, where there is interaction takes place. This can be compared with the yogic practice of the pranayama. Breathe in, retain, breathe out. The suspension of breath is the void where meditation occurs. The middle void is essential. Nothing can happen without it. Hence the importance of white, unpainted space in the Chinese landscape. So over here the writer is trying to tell us and give us importance about what is century. It literally means mountain water. Now mountain and water, they represents landscape only, because in landscape we have mountain and water. Now one other thing is, mountain is yang, which is the masculine feature, which represents something which is vertical, like heaven, warm, dry, while water is yin, which is in the horizontal state, which is earth, fluid, moist, something which is very cool. Now yang represents the masculine aspect of the universal energy. Yin represents the feminine aspect of universal energy. So we can say that between both yang and yin, there is a third essential element, that is the middle void, where the interactions take place, and this could be considered with the yogic practice also of pranayama. When we breathe in, we stay there for a certain time duration, we hold our breath and then we breathe out. So the suspension, the breath which we have taken during meditation, there is a middle void which is very essential, where there is nothing. So there is importance of white color, which represents nothing, but still it is really very essential and important. It gives us the effect, the sense that between yin and yang, between vertical and horizontal, between good, bad, between we can say century, there is an empty space where nothing happens, and where there nothing happens, it represents white color, and that is the unpainted space in the Chinese landscape. This is also where man finds a fundamental role in that space between heaven and earth. He becomes the conduct of the communication between both poles of the universe. His presence is essential, even if it only suggested. Far from being lost or oppressed by the lofty peaks, he is, in Francois Chang's wonderful expression, the eye of the landscape. Now it is given over here that what is man's fundamental or basic role. The role is to find a good space between heaven and earth. It becomes very important and necessary to develop a communication through that thing. Moreover to that, it seems so like being lost. And there is a beautiful expression, word, phrase used for it, and that is the eye of the landscape. Moving ahead, getting inside outsider art. When French painter Jean Depouft moted the concept of artburst in 1940s, the art of untrained visionary was of minority interest from its almost veiled beginnings. Outsider art has gradually become the fastest growing area of interest in contemporary art internationally. This genre is described as the art of those who have no right to be artists, as they have received no formal training, yet show talent and artistic insight. Their works are a stimulating contrast to a lot of mainstream offerings. So now we are talking about a new concept, which is what is an outsider art. So there was a French painter known as Jean Debuffet, and he started this sort of concept of art birth or outsider art in 1940s, and the main aim was those untrained artists or those who have a different vision, who have not got the formal training as a painter, but still those people who draw, they become painters. Now initially they were not given more acknowledged by the people, but slowly and gradually this type of whole genre of outsider art developed internationally. Around the time Debuffet was propounding his concept in India, an untutored genius was creating paradise. Now, when Debuffet was trying to develop this sort of area, there was one person from India who was also untutored but was a genius, and he was creating a paradise, he was creating a heaven. Years ago, the little patch of jungle that he began clearing to make himself a garden, sculptured with stone and recycled material, known to world today as rock garden at Chandigarh. So this person usually was clearing out the jungle, a small portion of the area he was clearing to make a garden for himself, and he used to make these sort of materials only through the raw or the waste materials, and through that he had made it through rocks and different things which were of waste, of no use. You can see the image over here. This is a rock garden sculpture made of the broken bangles. This whole image you can see in front of you. This whole image, the sculptures are made up of broken bangles, which is known as rock garden at Chandigarh. In its 80-year-old sculptor, creator, director, Nek Chand is now hailed as India's biggest contributor to outsider art. The 50th issue of Raw Vision, a UK-based magazine pioneer in outsider art publication, features Nek Chand as his rock garden sculpture Women by the Waterfall on its anniversary issue cover. So now what Nek Chand has made in the rock garden, a sculpture of Women by Waterfall. That picture was being put up by the UK-based magazine who was pioneer for the outsider publication, art publication, and they have featured Nek Chand's rock garden sculpture on their anniversary issue cover. The notion of the art birth or raw art was to work that were in their raw state as regards cultural and artistic influences. Anything and everything, from a tin to a sink to a broken down car, could be material for a work of art. Something Nek Chand has taken to dizzying heights, recognizing his art as an outstanding testimony of differences a single man can make when he lives his dreams. So, Nek Chand was the person who had influenced many people for the notion of art burst and wrote, and he says that when any person is so much passionate and dedicated towards his dream, he can for sure make it and he could live his dream. The Swiss Commission of UNESCO will be honoring him by the way of a European exposition of his works. The 5-month interactive show, Realm of Nek Chand, beginning October, will be held at a leading museum in Switzerland, Belgium, Italy, and France. The biggest reward is walking through the garden and seeing people enjoying my creation, Nek Chand says. So, European exposition from UNESCO, they had started an interactive session with Nek Chand, and he says that the biggest reward of his outsider art is that when people walk inside, they are so much amazed by looking at all these things which is made. Now usually we have a notion, we have mindset that painting is something which is of colors. Of course it is of colors, but it could be represented with different perspectives and ideas. And Nek Chand has proved that he is a genuine genius in it. And his biggest reward is when people look at his work and they enjoy it so much and they are so much in shock that how differently we can think about it. So dear students, this is all about the chapter. I hope that you all have understood it. So thank you for watching and have a nice day. If you still find any doubt or queries, you can comment down in the comment section below. Thank you.